Enable auto transcription. Okay. All right. Yeah. So say something here and let me see if it.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Isaac Duryea. Seem to be working.
Awesome. Yep, it's working.
Cool.
So the way we've been planning to do this, and if you have feelings about this, we can certainly work something out. But I'll have you introduce yourself. That way, I don't butcher any names or anything like that, and I don't misstate anything. And then what I will do is I'm just going to kind of sit back and let you go.
All right.
And then I will put a message in the chat right after we start asking people to put their questions in the chat and hold them till the end, unless you want people to ask you things along the way. I
mean, it wouldn't hurt probably, but yeah, let's just stick with putting them in chat for now, and I can get back to them at the end of it.
Yeah, and then what we'll do at the end of it is then I'll read them off to you. If you're cool with that, I'll just read the questions off, and that way I can make sure that we go through them all. And let me do this. I'm actually looking at you. So I'll go through and read them off then, and I'll give you. I'll put like a 10-minute warning in the chat, and then at 5 minutes I'll break in and let you know that we got 5 minutes left, and that's where we'll probably cut it off so that we have at least 5 minutes for questions. If you don't use the whole time, that's okay too. I mean, I'm not going to hold it against you. If you get through what you want to get through, and you want to start taking questions, then that's fine with me as well. So it's all whatever you're comfortable with.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
And then I'm going to see. I'll just leave this open. I'm going to go over to the hop in real quick and make sure to put the link in there so that people know that we're doing it in here.
Okay.
There should be a link already in there. And I'm going to share my, let's see. Oh, wait, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. It's 10:45 right now, but I'm going to give people just a couple more minutes if that's all right, since we're switching over to Zoom from Hopin.
Yeah. See, there's a bunch of people already. Thanks you all for coming.
While we're waiting for anyone else to join in, I'll just say right now, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, I'll read the questions off and Isaac can address them at that time. All right, I think it's safe for us to go ahead and start. So I'll let Isaac introduce himself and we'll be off.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
My name is Isaac Dury. I work at Washburn University and I'm a network administrator. And today I'm here to talk about Netbox, which is an application that helps you organize and structure your IPAM and DCIM information and allows it to be accessible through API to automate configuration on your network or provisioning devices and other third-party systems. So before I get into what more about Netbox, the reason why we went with we went with Netbox instead of anything else is because it was a very well polished application and it fit our goals. Because before we had this, we had a Excel spreadsheet and for all of our IP addressing and networking and NATs and all that, and it was kind of a mess and not kept up to date. So Netbox helped us organize all that, get that, make it a lot more searchable, and helps us, puts us on the road for future automation, which is very good. So a couple of the design goals of Netbox is to first off accurately reflect real world networks, so as closely as possible. So instead of like an IP address being associated with a device, it's it's associated with the interface like it is in real life. That sort of thing. It tries to be as close to how the network is actually set up as possible. One of the second goals is that is for it to act as a source of truth for the network. So that basically means it holds what the desired state of the network should be, instead of what it actually is. So there's no automatic importing of data or anything like that built into Netbox by default. You're highly recommended by the developers to actually vet all data put into Netbox, so that's as accurate as possible, so that you can, with a high degree of confidence, populate third-party systems with provisioning information and automate as accurately as possible, basically. And the third sort of goal of the design in Netbox is for it to be simple, and not have a huge learning curve. So they prefer it to be that way instead of it being a complex, complete solution. So and that makes it, of course, it's very easy to learn. I've had in the documentation is very clear on what everything means. So it's very easy to get in, and I think you'll see that from when I go through the interface of our live environment. So then another thing is that it's Apache 2.0 licensed. That's a permissive open source license, so it's free, and there is no sort of legal ramifications for using it in corporations or educational institutions. So another thing to note, I'm not on the latest version of Netbox currently. I'm on 2.10.10, and the latest is 2.11.3. There's a lot of new features in 2.11.3, but it's going to be mostly the same as 2.10.10. So Netbox allows you to document and structure a lot of different things. I'm just going to list a bunch of stuff here, from IP addresses, prefixes, addresses, VRFs, VLANs. You can model equipment racks, put devices in those equipment racks. You can model devices, how they're connected to the network, how the console is connected, for example, how power is connected, and you can model virtualization, virtual machines, and clusters. Then you can also model circuits, WAN circuits, and their providers. You can also model sensitive credentials, passwords and stuff like that. You can put that in there, but it's not. But that's not something that's going to stay in native Netbox, from what I'm hearing from the developers. They're probably going to move that feature to a plugin because it doesn't exactly align with their design goals. All right, so now that sort of description's over, I'm just going to move to what sort of software is used, what dependencies Netbox uses. So it uses a PostgreSQL database, and it's built on Django, which is a Python web framework. The Netbox application is, and it uses Unicorn as the WSGI server, and you can use either NGINX or Apache as the reverse proxy for SSL termination. and front end. You could probably use a different front end if you want to, but it's probably not documented on exactly how to set it up in the documentation for Netbox. It also uses Redis for in-memory storage. The Python version supported currently is 3.6, but that's going to go away in a future major version release, which is 2.12.x. So you'll need to move. You can install, or you will need to have at least 3.7 or up to run Netbox in the future. Now, Netbox doesn't require many resources, compute and memory resources. We have it running on a Rails 7 Linux box with 1 virtual CPU and 2 gigabytes of RAM with 20 gigabytes of storage. It runs fine. The web interface works fine. It does what we need to do, and we haven't had many problems with it consuming all that space or all that CPU and memory resources. All right, so now we'll move out to our actual instance here that we have running on site. Let me collapse all this Zoom stuff. So this is the main page here. And I'm going to get into all this specific stuff separately, but I just want to go over the main page a little bit first. So most of the stuff you can access directly from the main page. This is a global search, so you can search through all objects from basically all objects. It's very useful to find related stuff. This is also a global search that stays there permanently. And you can also filter by all these different kinds of objects that are in Netbox. Then it shows a changelog here. It keeps the changelog, and you can configure how many entries to save. I think I currently have it set to save all and not expire them. I think that's how I currently have it set up, but I might change that in the future. So far, it hasn't been an issue. And the bottom here shows versioning and hostname information. So there's the version I told you about. And it has some useful links down here to the docs, to the API, which is a Swagger open API display that's on local to the server. Then you can go to the GitHub page and to the wiki on GitHub. All right. So the first thing I'm going to look at here is regions. Regions are pretty much the first thing you configure when you set up Netbox. They basically can be anything as big as a country or as big as a state. They can be nested within each other. So I could create a United States and create a Kansas and then put these two into there. It has that sort of hierarchical ability built into Netbox. But yeah, then you can go in here and see the sites. Now, I've typically defined sites as how do I say this? Buildings divided by WAN links. So like I'm not modeling every single building at Washburn University as its own separate site, because that would be the upkeep and the amount of configuration I have to actually do is quite a lot to be able to do that. And I think that's how they sort of intended it to mean sites separated by WAN links, something similar to that. And you can set a bunch of information in these sites. So you can set AS number, time zone description. You can set all sorts of address, contact information. It'll also show what racks, devices, prefixes, VLANs, all this is associated with this site. And then rack groups as well. We don't have too many rack groups currently, but that might change. And let's go to racks. So racks are exactly what they sound like. They're just racks that are just individual racks that are on our premises. So this one's one in on our data center. So you can see you can position devices. These are all separate devices that are inside these racks. And these striped lines mean that it's positioned the other way. So this is rear. This is positioned, the front face is rear on this device, which is a switch, and it's taking up this space on the front end because it's a full size device. These patch panels are not full size device, so they're not taking up the front side. You could probably put another device in there pretty simply. Then yeah, all our servers. So then you can, and then there's dimension information that you can put in. I can either a 4-post cabinet, a 2-post rack. There's several different options. I think I'll just go in here and look at it. Yeah, they have several different types: 2-post frame, 4-post frame, wall-mounted frame, wall-mounted cabinet. They have several different things. 19 is most common, of course. You can put height. You can set outer dimensions. I don't think I've set any outer dimensions for any of our racks. And then you can set whether it's in descending units or ascending units, which means either does it start at 1 at the bottom or does it start at the highest number at the bottom of the rack. So that's always useful. Then you can attach images. You can attach images to most device and most physical oriented stuff, and they'll show up here. You can also associate images with the front and back of the device, so they'll actually show up here. I believe there's an option to show or not show images. Currently, I don't have any images actually associated with these device types, so they're just showing normal colors. And let's look at now. I'll look at rack groups here. So I only have one rack group currently for this. They're going to be changing. That's one of the things that changes in a future release. These are now called locations, which makes a little bit more sense. That allows you to model different buildings, basically, so that you can gather racks into a single named location, which is a good. I think that's a good change. That makes this more clear what this is for. So once probably we'll start using rack groups a lot more. And you can assign roles to different racks. I kind of have just some generic roles assigned to them. Nothing. I might expand this in the future, but for now it works for what we need. I don't know. I believe reservations, I don't have any. Those are just the spaces in racks that are reserved for certain devices. So another thing here is tenants. So like you can assign tenant to most objects in Netbox, from devices to, I believe, prefixes, but I'm not entirely, we'll go across that. But I know devices definitely, since I have Canron. Canron has a device in our data center, and that's why I created a tenant for them so that we can identify who actually owns that device. And tenant groups are just grouping tenants. And tags. So tags, you can apply them to most objects. and they just allow you to filter certain based on whatever sort of trait you want to identify in the tag. You can assign different colors, a range of colors. That it just makes it easier to search for certain things if you have a specific thing you want to search for. Then we can move on. Let's see, devices. I guess I can move on to devices. And let me go down. So you can see we have a bunch of devices. You can assign to them, of course. They have different statuses from active to inventory to, I guess I can go into one to show you better. Let me see. Not that one. I want this one. Okay. So yeah, you can set different statuses. Let me go into edit. Different roles. These are roles that you define. I just have some generic ones that I've set up. Might get more specific if I need to, but for now that of course works. And you can set serial number, asset tag, device type, which includes the model, a model of how the interfaces are laid out and everything like that. You can set what site and region it's assigned to. You can't assign what rack. This one is not in a rack currently, but you can assign it to a rack and a position and how it faces in the rack. So statuses. Now these statuses are set. You cannot change them. If you need to have something else, you may have to create either a tag or a custom field, which you can do in the interface. That's one of the things that's kind of annoying, but I think mostly these options covered what I need. So it hasn't become an issue quite yet. Platform. You can get more. I just said as the general platform, but you can get more specific. These are self-defined, and you can get more specific as to what OS what OS it is. I might do that in the future. Currently, I just have it as the general OS, just for identification of the device and what commands you can run on it. It's and stuff like that. Thing is that the primary IP for this, if a device has multiple IPs, you can set that it's primary. So that's pretty straightforward. Local config context. This is structured JSON data as applied to in a device that is generally used to inform for automation purposes. So a script would take this and it would use it to provision device in third-party systems and to run commands and stuff like that. Now this is the local config context. There is a config context that is applied to a lot of devices, but if there is something you want to put in here locally, you can do that, and it will overwrite any keys that are in the general config context. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Then tags, you can apply tags to it, and comments. This supports markdown format, so you can make it nice, pretty. Then we can go into interfaces here. So interfaces are pretty straightforward. You can what do I want to do? So they have a name, they have a label. What else here? it's pretty straightforward. One of the kind of hard time figuring out what to say about the interface. But yeah, you can set them to connect to other devices or to front ports on a patch panel or rear ports or a circuit termination point. We'll talk about circuits a little bit, they're coming up. Or just straight into the interface on a switch. On a switch or other device, I guess I could say, because this could be a server, but this is a switch in this case. You can add IP addresses or assign them, and set them as primary on here. You can set that IP information, apply tags, and here's some custom fields I set up to better identify certain IP addresses. But yeah, you can create a lag. I've done that on for a couple of interfaces that have LACP, using LACP aggregation. Done that, and you can associate different interfaces to a lag group, and you can put MTU, the tagging mode it's in, the MAC address, description, and it'll show you can show a bunch more information here, but this is what's currently shown in this table. But yeah, one of the things that I've decided to settle on is that these names aren't the exact name of the interface on this switch. This is because our interfaces is this interface would be 1/1/1, which is unit number / slot number / port number, but this is just the slot number / port number. And that's because if we have like, there's not a mechanism in Netbox to easily do that without having to manually configure every single interface, which is another thing that's kind of a little bit annoying, but this works for our purposes. And you can model stacks in Netbox as well, so it kind of makes it easier to determine what device is on what unit. But that's something I've had to settle on. They say, yeah, this is the second slot, and then the SVI, the in-band management, and it's got its own management port, but we're not using that. And that's where the primary IP is located at. And the uplink for this is on the Ethernet port. It's connecting back to a switch in our data center. And there's a console port. This is a mini USB. And you can model power ports. You can also model power draw to make sure that, yeah, just modeling power. I haven't messed with it too much. Haven't really felt the need to do that yet. But you can model power panels and power feeds to determine power draw, and if you can put more devices on a certain panel or feed. But so far that hasn't really been something we've looked at. Devices. So yeah, device rules are another sort of tool you can use to determine to determine what the purpose of a device is. We just have some generic ones: access, building distribution, site distribution, data center, cable management are the key ones. But yeah, there you can associate them with the color. You can set them as a VM role, which means they can be applied to VM virtual machines that are in here as well. Now platforms, another sort of, yeah, we already kind of talked about these. Another thing that you can also do is set a NAPAM driver. Netbox allows you to get some information out of devices using NAPAM, which will go out and get and run some commands on the switch or whatever device it is. So you can set the napalm driver if you have napalm installed on the local server. I don't particularly use that. I tried it out. It was not great. It seems like something that they're probably going to be getting rid of at a certain point. So then here's the virtual chassis. So let me see if I can find one here that's good. So virtual chassis is how you model stacks or any sort of devices that share a control plane or something similar like that. And you can set position in the stack, whether it's a master, the priority of the device in the virtual chassis, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You can also set domain if you need to, but yeah, we use that to model stacks in our environment. Device types, these are sort of templates for devices. Let me not use the Barracuda as an example. So I can go into here. Device type, this allows you to basically template certain devices if you have a lot of them, so you don't have to manually reconfigure all the interfaces and all the power ports and all the console ports and etc. But yeah, and it allows you to say the height, full depth, and organize devices by a model type. Then yeah, manufacturers, a way to designate device types as as belonging to a certain manufacturer. It's pretty straightforward. I think that's pretty much it. Besides, yeah, cabling. So cabling, you can look at all the cabling that's in here. It's pretty straightforward. It has a side A, a side B, termination point, and the type of interface. Netbox comes with a bunch of built-in cabling types, from all the cat kind of cabling to DAC cables to multi-mode fiber and single mode fiber, as well as power. And you can also specify other, and I think you can specify. I thought there was an other here. Maybe not. I think you can just leave that blank and sort of just write in. Maybe not. I swear you could do that at some point, but maybe not. Either way, you can specify the defined types of cabling that is in Netbox. And so then more different kinds of connections, interfaces, all this stuff. Another thing about these menus is that you can import. I'll just go there really quick to show you how the import function works. It's a comma separated value, and it shows you what exactly to put in there for everything. What was required was not optional, and you can just create a Excel file, put in all the stuff, save it as CSV, and open it in Notepad, copy all that and put it in here. That's generally how I import stuff. But you can import pretty much any sort of object pretty simply in the Netbox, which makes it really neat. Guess I can go over IP addresses here really quick. Yeah, okay. So yeah, IP addresses can be associated with interfaces. You can see the parent prefix. Prefix is another object that's in here. You can associate a DNS name to it, NATs, NAT IPs, and you can associate a role. I don't have a role assigned to this one. That roles are a little bit odd for IP addresses. They're explicitly defined in Netbox. You can't change these, but they're mostly used to specify a special kind of IP address, whether it be secondary anycast, used for gateway redundancy protocols, and stuff like that. But yeah, with all IP address, you can set a VRF. We only have one VRF on our premises, so we don't need that, but you can specify multiple VRFs. Let's go to aggregates first to show that. So these are the top hierarchy of the IP, your IP addressing. And so this includes your public IP addressing and your private IP addressing. And the registry, they recommend just using this for the private addressing, and we get our public addressing from Aaron, of course. So that's what we specify in these. So and then here's where you get set the RIRs. I don't know exactly how you say that. It's not a word I say very often. Here's where you can specify VRFs and route targets. Of course, we don't really have any of those in our environment, but they are there if you need to specify them. VLANs, if it loads, there we go. Then let me see which one I can specify here. Oh, that's a deprecated one. Let's not use that. Okay, I can do this. So VLAN, it has the VLAN ID, the name. You can specify a status. It's a static status like with devices, so you can't really change the options in there. They're pretty much the same. You can set the role. I have some custom fields to set the router interface. You can do that through Netbox in a different way, but this makes it very clear to me. I haven't gone that far in configuring Netbox to have it associated directly with the virtual interface on that router, but we'll eventually do that. Then the prefix, you can associate a prefix with the VLAN. And yeah, you can associate multiple prefixes if necessary. So yeah, that's a VLAN. And you can have VLAN groups to better organize how your VLANs are but just better organize your VLANs in general for certain purposes. Virtual machines, I only tested this out using the Netbox host, but you can sort of model certain. You can model pretty much everything about a VLAN physically, whether it be the virtual CPU or the memory or the disk space, what platform it has, just like a device, Ethernet interfaces, virtual Ethernet interfaces. And you can also apply the config context to these as well, if you need to. Now, I think that's basically it. You can also create clusters. You can apply those to devices to model how your VM cluster looks, what devices are actually in that cluster. Gotta kind of speed up here. So circuits these are our WAN connections. So we have several. We have one to our East Topeka location that's operated by WIT, Washburn Institute of Technology, and that's over at Cox Business. So I go in here, it has two termination sites, and this is a cable name. And this connects directly to our core switch. And on the Z side, it connects to our router over there at ETLC. So that allows you to model all your circuit connections, your WAN connections, everything like that. And then you associate with, you create a provider. That's pretty simple. Circuit types. That's all self-defined. You can create power panels. Those are, we don't have any of those currently, but you can model power in your environment. Secrets, these are kind of going away. I think I deleted the only one that was in here, but yeah, we're not really using secrets, and they plan on getting rid of those, as I said earlier. So you can look at the changelog, which we kind of already saw. The config context, this is one of those important things for automation, which I've kind of set up here. Now, there's a local config context, but this config context you can apply to these different sort of assignments from the regions, sites, roles, platforms. You can assign it directly to devices that are associated with these things.
Hey, Isaac, I just wanted to cut in real quick. We got about 5 minutes left. I don't see, it looks like there's a couple comments in the chat, but it looks like they're mostly just ideas, and it looks like one kind of got answered through your presentation. But I just wanted to give everybody a chance here to, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. Okay, so let's see. We have one question from Derek Johnson. Are you using custom written scripts to update your data dynamically?
Not currently. Everything, the way I'm trying to go forward is to have Netbox be sort of the front end for all of our sort of configuration. That's kind of where I want to go, instead of other sources updating Netbox. I'm not there yet. Yeah, not doing any provisioning like DHCP server Andy. I'm thinking about it, but I haven't set any of it up yet. But that is something I am thinking about. Also, DNS provisioning is another thing that's sort of interesting. I'm going to go ahead and skip to the script here.
Sure.
That I wrote to this, just so we can get that quickly. So I did write a script that uses this config context here to apply these global commands to switches that have this tag here. And it's a script that's meant to be scheduled, so it'll run. Gosh, if I can find out where I put anything. Yeah. So if right now it's all synced up, but if I add like another command to this context here, so these are just some commands that we have standard across all of our switches. But if I add like, or if I remove one of them, yeah, if I remove one of them, it'll be able to show that, how that all works. Oh, my screen went dim. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. Something disappeared on me. Okay. So if I run that, Where? Okay. Let me reconnect to this switch. This is not a switch, this is the Linux server. I think I got it here. So I'm currently just using my password to log into these switches. So I'll type that in. So it collects the 2 device IDs that are associated with that tag. And then it's running the commands that are in that that are in that array, that's that command array. So I have it go into 2 switches here. So it's running command on this switch, and now it's running a command on the second switch here. And you can see the output of the command.
We're still seeing the Netbox screen.
Oh, you're not seeing the, oh, what happened to the share then?
I mean, we're seeing the Netbox tab in your browser.
Okay, thank
Are
you.
you on another screen?
Yeah, I'm on another screen right now, sorry.
That's okay.
For some reason the share got all messed up. I thought I shared my screen.
I mean, it's Zoom. What do you say? What can you say?
All right, are you seeing everything now?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'll go over that again. So I ran script. This is just on a Linux server we use for networking. And the first thing it does, I put in my password. It gathers the device IDs in Netbox that are associated with this tag, this check config tag. And then it runs the commands that are in the this command array. And yeah, so, and it shows the output of that. And that's basically all I wanted to show off today.
Great. All right. Well, we're at time just about a minute over, so I'll cut it off here.
Okay.
And just say thank you, Isaac, for your presentation. You did a great job. Thanks to everyone else for attending, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Goodbye, everyone.